energy. So the basic concept of Bach therapy is that when we experience negative emotions, the way they are likely to impact our physical body is by creating illnesses. So the minute we start to balance what we need to and let go of some of our baggage, we are in a position to, self-heal. And that really is what God created for all organisms in the world, whether it is animals, insects, humans, to be able to self-heal. And they gave us, a number of methodologies to do that. So allopathy is what most humans go towards, but there's a lot of alternative treatments. Bach is one of them. The difference between this and other alternatives is that you treat the emotions behind the issue. So if you come to me and you say you have a leg pain, we're going to identify what you're feeling at that moment. What are some of the negative things that you're carrying? Oh, I'm going to be in pain. Oh, I'm never going to be able to walk properly. I'll never run again. So you look at all those thoughts that are going through someone's mind, and you try and ease those thoughts. And therefore, the leg now has the ability as a physical being to be able to self-heal. Now, the reason I got into Bach was not humans. It is just a step before the way the certifications work is that you first get certified for humans, and then there is an additional certification that you need to do for animals. My interest primarily when I got into it was for animals. And that was from day one, because I had seen how my animals had responded so positively to Bach therapy. And I had a therapist who I was working with, and then of course she left the country, and she so it was important for me to try and see if I can create that same help for these animals, because I had seen them improve on mange, on being in hit and run accidents and being able to get up on their own, even when the vet said it was time to put them down, and things like that. So I just have a lot of faith in this particular methodology or a modality. And that's how I came to doing this course. And as I went through the process, one day I just had this thought about, what if we can talk to animals and understand what they're actually going through, instead of depending on the humans that are involved in the process, because we're all guessing, we're all interpreting what they're saying to us, right? So healing for me goes back to the basics of our ability to heal ourselves. Healing has a lot to do with our mindset in the moment. It has a lot to do with what we're thinking and feeling, okay? And therefore, if I can't feel what the animal is feeling, whether it is physical discomfort, whether it is, heartbreak from being left on the street, whether it is from getting adopted and being put back in a shelter, whether it is being born in a shelter, and being attacked by other animals, how am I sitting somewhere else, unless I spend the whole day observing them, am I able to do this? And that is how animal communication came about for me, because I really wanted to use it as an additional tool. Yes, a vet identifies the physical ailment, right? And we do go by what they are saying and the treatment that they have decided to do. This becomes an add-on treatment in many cases. It also becomes a standalone treatment in many cases, or you may use it with other modalities like Ayurveda or homeopathy. So animal communication for me is a tool that I use to communicate with these animals, and I'm able to ask them what is going on, and they're able to communicate back to me on how they're feeling, why they're feeling the way they are, what can I do to help them, and things like that. So it becomes a complete two-way telepathic conversation. And based on that, I am able to help the animal by treating it with maybe the right set of remedies that may not have come to me initially when I just observed them, or I listened to a rescuer or a pet parent when they describe the issue. So that is in short how this journey has happened for me.
Okay, so this is an initiative which is, run by you, and you individually do all of it.
So Bach therapy is a UK-based organization, the Bach Center. The modality was created by Dr. Bach, who was a surgeon in the one of the world wars. I'm not sure which one. He was also a homeopath, and based on his observations of why some people heal faster from the same ailment or injury versus somebody else, is how he came up with this system of flower essences. So it's basically taking the energy of the flowers, which vibrates at a much higher level than we do, and to allow our bodies to absorb that so that we can balance our um, our energies and therefore self-heal. So I am not the creator of Bach remedies. I'm just a practitioner. But in India, I am the only certified animal practitioner at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I hope more people go ahead and do the program with the Bach Center and get certified for animals. And that's really my hope with this session as well, is to get more and more people either using it or certifying themselves so that they can help animals in a more humane manner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So when did it all start? I mean, when was its inception? When did it all began?
For me, it began, I think, about 10 years ago as an experience, because I had someone who would give me the remedies. Around 2015 and 2016 is when it started becoming something that I was absolutely drawn towards, and I needed to do that. So it's been a journey, and it's been there are 3 levels of certifications, and there's a 4th level of certification that you need to do to become an animal practitioner. So it's a journey. It's not something that happens overnight. But as you start working with animals and as you start using the remedies, you see absolutely miraculous recoveries at times. And so that kind of increases your faith in how the animals are responding to it.
All right. Okay. So when you were talking about more people joining in, or with the hope of more people coming into helping animals, or for that healing animals, is there any internship program that Bach Flower Therapy offers so that more individuals or volunteers could join in?
So here is how I am doing it. No, there are basically certifications that you need to do to get certified and then be able to use them so that you know how to use them in the best possible way. But here is what I am doing is that if there are animals that are sick and people approach me, especially street animals, animals in shelters, etc., I try and help them make the remedies, send them to them, and then it's a matter of, like with any other medication that you need to give to them, 2 or 3 times a day, you do that, right? Um, so just to kind of, explain how it works is that sometimes when you're in a conversation with an animal and the parent will say something's not right, they're puking, they are doing this, they're doing that, they're on the way to the vet, or it's the weekend, or there is an issue, the animal will tell you whether they want to visit a vet or they don't need a vet visit, whether they need remedies or they want some other treatment, right? So I have a lot of animals that have either epilepsy or other illnesses that are, go straight to steroidal treatments that many people do not wish to do because it has a lot of side effects as well. And more people are trying to be more natural in how they manage the remedies. For example, for mange, which is, I think, one of the major problems that once you have an outbreak in a shelter or with street animals, it just spreads from animal to animal and it becomes very, very difficult to control. So you do remedies for that and it helps them control it. Otherwise, you're giving them Neomec or ivermectin or one of those formulas, which is very heavy on the liver and kidney. Plus, trying to give a pill to a street dog is really a cumbersome process for people in the rescue world, right? This becomes really easy because you put a few drops on their food and they happily take it because there's no smell, there is no, pill, there is no feeling of being given a medication. So it helps them, clear out their skin. You can do it in addition to the ivermectin treatment that you're doing, but then, what it allows the body to do is self-heal faster. So maybe, if you have the dog on Neomec per se, 30 or 60 days on and off because you're trying to get rid of the infection, it might cut it down to 15 or 20 days that is required. And you continue then with the back therapy to maintain it for maybe another month or two. And, it becomes an easier process because the cost of medicating animals or taking them to the shelter is a very traumatic experience for the animals, right? And half the time the animals don't recover as quickly because the trauma of the event is so high that they are unable to unable to make sense of what is going on around them. And that's where again communication comes into play. We ask them, we treat them just as you would treat a human being. Do you want to do this? Would you like to do this? Right? And as we go through the process, the animal initially may be very just afraid or traumatized. And when you explain to him, this is what is going to happen, this is where you're going to go, they're going to give you a bath once or twice a week. They will give you some medication, you'll get your food, and in about 3 to 4 weeks, you will feel better and you can come back to your locality. Now, this entire process is actually very traumatic for them. And sometimes you find animals that don't really respond to medication because the trauma takes over their body. So the concept of healing, the medicines are not able to work as well because the body is not working with the medicine. And that happens with humans, that happens with animals. And a lot of people will see where sometimes they will do what they can to help you along as well, right? Like I've had animals where we've treated them hit and run cases. Okay, initially you just ran to the vet, and what happens in that is that the trauma of the accident plus being caged plus everything else is a lot for the animal to deal with. But when you go to the vet, many times they'll say the back is broken. Okay, so I'll give you an instance of how communication works, and it's very intuitive. It's something that all of us have, but it's
Yes.
very intuitive. It's not something that is specially available with me. Okay, it's not a skill that I acquired or I was born with. It's something I have relearned over a period of time. Because that's important. So I had this dog that was hit and run. I saw it on the road. I picked it up. I took it to the shelter. And I told them, keep her. I'll try and find a foster. I'll try and find what I can do about this. But just hang in there because right now I don't have any resources like as a home and stuff. I already had sick animals at home. I had my own pets at home. So all that was going on. And on the second day, the vet called me and he said that I think we should put this animal down. And she was a puppy. She was maybe 4 or 5 months old. And in my heart, I just could not let go. That is how I justified it in that moment. And I just said, can you keep her for another day or two? Let me find a foster. I will move her out of there, but I'm not ready yet to give up on her. Okay. But actually, it was she telling me intuitively, even though I was not a communicator, so to speak, at that point, that don't put me down, I will be fine. Though medically, if you look at it, there was no reason to put this dog through any more pain than she was in at the moment. And the biggest surprise was on the 5th day when I was still contemplating, is it time? Am I torturing this animal? The vet called me and he said, she's walking. You should take her away because we don't want her to get any secondary infections. And I was able, she had a limp. She continued to have that limp for a long time, but she was fine. She was able to fend for herself on the street. She went back to her territory. And for the longest time, of course, she didn't come back to me because she was worried I might take her back to the vet or I might, create another situation. But that animal was able to walk. So what that allows us to do with communication is to also hear the will of the animal. We always assume that that they're just going through the motions and we are responsible for them, but actually they have their own free will. And it allows us to talk to them and ask them, do you want us to put you down? Would you recover? Do you want us to let you go through this experience of the accident, the illness, the death, right? What would you like us to do for you? And then have the ability to respect that, because it's very, very hard to respect it because you're seeing the animal in so much pain and agony that we feel that we should put it out of its misery, right? And I'm one of those. I mean, when I was doing rescues and feeding and all of that, I have been through the whole, trauma of having to put down animals who were very ill, who were epileptic, and anyways on the end of their life, 14 years, 15 years. And I just felt that they had such a good life. Why should I allow them to suffer at that point? And that perspective shift is what I was talking about when I say that, the biggest thing that has changed for me as a human being is to treat them as equals and not below us. A lot of us believe that we are responsible for them, that we need to do this for them. And so what we end up doing is stressing ourselves also out, doing too much, putting our health at risk, putting our relationships at risk, and all of that. This allows us to actually hear what they are saying and respect their wishes and go with that, so that's really how animal communication comes into the play. I mean, of course, animal communication you can also use to ask them what food they like, are they comfortable, for pets especially. The common questions that pet parents will have, is he happy with us? Does he want us to change something? Is he happy with his vet? Does he want us to take a second opinion? All those kinds of things that you can ask. But, from a health perspective, they will turn around and say, I would like this. There are times when animals will tell you, I want this particular flower essence. They will either flash the name, verbalize a name, or they will flash the image of a flower that they would like to receive in their remedies. So that's how evolved these souls are. And that's how connected they are to the universal energy. Just because we don't know how to communicate with them in their language, we assume we know better. And that's the shift that I would like to see happen with rescuers and with people in animal welfare, where we start treating them as equals and treating them with the respect that they deserve.
Right. When you were speaking about that, we as humans always consider ourselves to keep ourselves at a probably at a higher position in respect to other creatures, probably not humans. But then, what as humans we commit mistake is that we consider ourselves as supreme, which is yes, a debatable matter, of course. But then, when it comes to us, like who loves animals, irrespective of whichever animal it is, we tend to communicate with them at the deeper level, at a level that a normal passerby would not be able to connect. On this note, uh, can you explain about how do they connect emotionally to us as human beings? What kind of energy do they pass on, or how do we connect to them? Because what happens is, the other day I was passing by a shop, and one dog was just sitting by the nearby shop, and he just saw me, and somehow he started wagging his tail without me even having to call him, or without me even asking to come near to me. So that was what struck me, कि he has already, उसको समझ आ गई थी कि this person, इनको जानवरों से प्यार है. So how do we share that energy? Because it's said that energy never lie. Okay, so this is something that I want to know, and probably the viewers also might want to know, how do we share that energy, and how do they understand that this person probably has an affection or has a connection with animals? Yeah.
So it's a very interesting question, Ankita. When you're not a communicator, you assume that they know who are animal, they can smell it, or that's how we kind of make it in our head. But it's all about telepathic communication. Like you said, we're all energy and we're all connected, right?
Yes. Yes.
We're all connected to the oneness or the supreme or the universal energy or God, goddess, guru, whatever you wish to call them, right? Now, from that energy, if we are all connected, then we're also connected to each other, right?
Yes.
And reading that energy is what telepathic communication is. So the universal language is telepathy. It is the language that all beings, whether it's plants, animals, dogs, cats, they are connected. We are not connected all the time, right? Because we're very busy with our regular lives. Now there is a car to be driven, there is traffic on the road, or we are walking, we're thinking of something else. We're not in the moment. The minute
Mhm.
that we become more in the moment, we start seeing these signs. Like it could have been that much easier for you to just walk away. He was
Yeah.
thumping his tail to say, hello, how are
Yes.
you? It's
Yes.
nice to meet you, right? It wasn't that
Yes.
he was expecting food or anything else. It's not like he got up and ran and came to you, but it was just, when if I see you somewhere after this session, I will say, hey, Ankita, how you doing? That is
True.
what he was doing with you, right? So that is
Yes.
how we're all completely connected. And that's one of those absolutely amazing shifts in perception that have happened for me during the course of my animal communication journey. Um, what started with I will be able to get symptoms and I will understand what they are thinking, to actually them teaching me every single day with every course, with every communication on what I need to be doing. So I'll give you an example
Mhm.
on their connectedness and their level of knowledge. Okay, we'll start with that. I've been working a lot with epileptic dogs. Okay, mostly pets, because epileptic dogs on the street barely ever last very long and people don't even realize they have epilepsy, right? So I was working across these 2 or 3 cases in the same week, 10 days, and I kept hearing the word jasmine. Okay. And or just the scent, which I could not identify initially. Then there's another friend communicator of mine who also got the word jasmine, and we couldn't figure out what it was. So when it happened in the second case, because in our early days we were working, pairing up, because confidence building, if you've got similar
Mhm.
information from the same animal, then so all those things happen.
Right.
And we just kept saying, so we'd ask the pet parent, do you have a jasmine plant? Is it growing somewhere? Do you have it inside the house? So we are confused because we're seeing sensing the scent or hearing a word, right? Finally, after the third case, I actually went on Google and I wrote epilepsy plus jasmine. And you will not believe the amount of research that poured out on how jasmine is used in aromatherapy to help break an epileptic fit. So if you make someone smell, jasmine oil, it breaks the epileptic fit. So you don't
Okay.
yeah. So I did not know that. And here
Mhm.
these animals were trying to tell me. So I went back to each one of those, families, and I said, can you please buy jasmine oil, burn it in an aroma burner, but don't keep it at a level where the animal might lick it, because it's still poisonous. But the scent is very valuable to them if they're having epileptic fits.
Okay.
you know so some
Okay.
of that are the things that are uh, you know uh, things that they teach you. It's a learning, it's a journey for me. It'll never be over, because every day somebody will come and teach me something new. So just opening yourself up to that learning, trying to understand, because a lot of it is metaphors, words, and things like that. So you have to try and figure out what they're trying to tell you, you know and that, I think, is proof to me, like, absolutely, that animals are connected to the universal energy. Animals remember past lives. Animals remember the knowledge they have acquired. Animals can tap into the universal knowledge base that we as humans do not have the ability. Just because they walk on 4 legs and just because their body shape is different from ours, we assume that they are not um, as evolved, because we
Mhm.
don't share the same language. The minute you remove the barrier of language using telepathic communication, you
Mhm.
immediately become aware of a much larger world, and you're able to help them a lot better.
Right, right. When you were just talking about how animals and the universe is connected, I feel there is oneness of life and environment in each and every single life, be it humans, be it insects, be it the nature for that matter. Because
Yes.
I am an avid lover of nature, and when it comes to nature, we are all entities of nature. It's just that our physical forms are different, our level of intelligence are different, but then none can be called inferior to the other. Everyone is equal in their respective terms. So when we talk about this equality, uh, how far have you been, or how have been the aromatherapy or this telepathic communication been able to bridge the gap between humans and animals? I mean, can you
I
speak
think
on that?
I think telepathic communication completely opens up a new world to you. You know, it opens up a world where because now when I talk to them, there is no difference between me and them. The soul, my soul and their soul has no variation, right? It is the same energy. I can take birth as an animal or I can take birth as a human. So that whole concept of, what we grew up on, or what all religions teach us, or what traditional knowledge teaches us, is that once you're a human, you've climbed up the ladder and
Yes.
therefore you're human. Okay.
Yes.
The one thing they made very clear to me is that's not true. We choose a body based on what we want to experience in this life, and we choose the body because we want to come back and um, spend some time with our loved ones. Maybe we left too early, maybe we were in a human body, maybe we were in an animal body, but we left too soon. We feel like thoda time or, and in that context, I remember one of my early communications, I was talking to this lady in Malaysia, and she had she's a rescuer, and she had this kitten that died at 4 months, that she could not understand, and she felt such a strong connection to this animal that she was absolutely heartbroken. And that's when she reached out to me. And when I was in communication, the kitten said, I am your sister. So and in that communication, I could see a womb and I could see a child. And
Okay.
and this lady said to me, I do not have a sister. I said, did you ever lose a sibling when you were a child? She says, no. I said, maybe your mom had a miscarriage that you are
Okay.
not aware about.
All right.
And so she called her mom, who lives in Canada, and asked her, and that lady said, yes, I did have a miscarriage before you were born. So the mother had obviously never told the children that she'd had a miscarriage. It's not the kind of thing you share with your children. And
Okay.
they both wept. They wept so much because this cat said, I came back to spend time because I never got to spend time with my sister, and
Oh
i'm
my
not
God.
meant to have i'm not meant to have so much time with her, right? So that's why I took whatever I could get and
Okay.
spend that time with her. So if it was 4 months, it was 4 months. I'm not going to think of it like humans are siraf 4 mahina. This cat could have lived with me for 12 years. I had a start and a finish date in this physical body, and I need to move on, and I wanted to spend some time. So I came to her. And that helped close the chapter for this lady who's a rescue, and she does a lot of work in with cats primarily. And
Okay.
so that is how connected we are. It doesn't matter if we are human or we are animal. Our connections are very strong. We're from the same soul group.
Yes.
We've spent many lifetimes together. It may be
Yes.
as humans, it may be as a zebra, it may be as a giraffe, it may be as anything. That
Mhm.
has no bearing. We might have been a wild animal, a domesticated animal, a livestock, or a human that looked after that livestock, right? So our connections that way are very, very strong. And that, of course, for me was an absolute eye opener, because like everybody else, this is how I understood our world, is that I am human because I am superior. And the one myth that has completely been shattered for me during my journey is that I am not superior and I need to treat them as equals. And I cannot, they are different. They are differently abled in terms of how they communicate, how they walk, how they eat, all of that, right?
Mm.
But they are not different from us. Yes, there is one huge difference, is that animals live in the moment and they
Yes.
don't have any dishonesty in them. So when you talk to them, you get the absolute truth. You don't get the versions, has we as humans create versions of our truth, no, because based on our emotional state. Today I'm feeling crap about someone, so that person is not nice. Tomorrow I'm feeling better about that person because he did something for me, so he's a good person. That's how our perception keeps changing about
Yes.
people. But in
Yes.
animals, that doesn't happen. They have no negative emotions, they have only love. And that is what makes them so special, and that is why it makes it, they forgive so easily. Even if we put them down and they didn't want to be put down, they will forgive us, because that is your journey. I understand it's your journey. I understand you could not see this, or you send them to the shelter and the animal comes running back to you, with so much trust, because he understands, Are, you needed to do this. But if someone took us and threw us in a shelter and brought us back, I don't think we will have the ability to be able to let that emotion pass so easily.
I'm actually becoming quite emotional at this moment. Because previously, I have lost kind of. I'm so sorry about this.
That's
A
okay.
very kind of loving stray, and kind of she used to come and eat. I'm so sorry. Thrice,
That's okay.
3 meals a day, and then suddenly she died. Someone poisoned her probably, and I could feel her kind of speaking to me that I didn't want to die.
Mm.
And probably 2 days ago, I just had a very bad dream. She is bidding me goodbye, like something she was communicating. She was trying to communicate me, and then for the next 2 days, I could not find her. She was someone who would every day come to my household for just 3 meals a day. And when she died, when I look back, when I kind of thought that yes, she was she was giving me a message that she's going to leave the world forever. And
Right.
then again a week later, I dreamt about her, and she said, I'm happy. She was barking at me, but then I could understood she saying me that I'm happy. So that is how we connect with them. That is how now we are connected to them so much that it has happened, several times to you as well. I hope that when animals die, or maybe when time arrives, you kind of feel an energy speaking to you or vibing to you that something very wrong is going to happen. No? So when we talk about communicating, I'm sure there must be a difference between communicating with animals, stray animals, and pets. Is it so, or is it the same thing emotionally? Is it different, or
it's
is it
the
the same?
it's the same energy. So I'll explain how they understand emotions. So just going back to your story, that is proof that there is telepathic communication, and that communication is just relearned because it's something that is inherent in all living beings. Okay, so they are coming to us. The only thing with telepathic communication is to be able to separate our subconscious from what they are saying to us, because our mind plays tricks on us, right? And the energy that you're talking about with animals, when we sense that they may be going or they're falling ill or something is not right, is them trying to communicate to us or prepare us for what is coming. Okay, because they know we are very emotional. We fed them, we look after them like family, and so we will not take it very well. Some animals will leave their territory because they don't wish to die in that territory. So sometimes your strays go missing, and then a week, 10 days later, someone says, he was found there or he was found here, and it breaks your heart, right? And you keep looking. But the thing is that they did not want you to experience their death, and they did not want to die in their happy place. Their physical territory sometimes is their happy place. So they don't want to bring that emotion of death that humans experience, and therefore their experience also changes because they're experiencing everything that we are experiencing. Our love, our kindness, our sadness, our anxiety, all of that they experience. And so sometimes when you talk to animals, they will tell you about even feeders. So it's not necessary about, of course, about humans, they will say, my mom has this problem, or my mom is very anxious, or she is not sleeping at night, that's why I'm barking at 3 o'clock in the morning. Or they will say, they have to stop fighting, okay, in the house. If they stop fighting, I will stop being aggressive. So there are those stories. But I had this feeder who called me, and she said, I have this dog who's become very aggressive, and he barks at everybody, you know and what shall I do about it? I'm not able to do anything, and I put him on the Himalaya remedy and this remedy and that remedy, and what shall we do about it? So he said to me, but she's always anxious that I'm going to scream at somebody, or I'm going to bark at somebody, or I'm going to pounce at somebody. So I'm doing it because that is the affirmation she's looking for from me, you know. So he is not, he's reading her anxiety and responding to that by barking at people. So I told her, if you can change that energy between you and your animal, where you say to the animal, I'm sorry that I was bringing this energy. I know you don't wish to bark at people. You can give me one yelp only, because if you spend all day barking, I'm not going to come and check. You give me this one big bark, you know, if you feel there is a danger to me or to someone else. Otherwise, if there are people passing, let them go. And there was an immediate change in that behavior. Okay. But because the human could not hold on to that centeredness, you know, the animal went back to barking. And I would keep telling her, I was like, you know, if you stay calm, he will stay calm, you know. And there's this concept of tandem healing. Tandem healing means where the human and the animal is healed together, because either the animal is taking on your illness or your temperament or your nature or the emotions that you are going through, or he is mirroring it. You know, he's putting a mirror in front of you and saying, oh, you are anxious, so I'm going to bark. You scream at people, so I will nip at people. You know, this is who you are. So I'm holding up a mirror to you. And the minute the human calms down, the animal also calms down. The human loses anxiety, the animal becomes a very peaceful animal. So when you do Bach remedies for such cases, you do for both, right? But the animal is willing to receive that energy and the animal will calm down. But if you don't calm down, then he has to pull that energy out of you. Now he's connected to you. So it's like an elastic, right? So unless you can both be at the same level, otherwise it's a seesaw. You're always going up and down, up and down. So that's why we do tandem healing together for both the human and the animal. So the reactions are similar. It doesn't have to do with proximity. As in, if you go and feed them once a day and you go like 3 kilometers or 5 kilometers away also to feed them, it doesn't mean that you're energetically not connected. It's just that when you're in the house together, you see more of each other. You feel more for the animal, because as humans, we don't, you know, out of sight is a little bit out of mind. You know, we can create those little buckets. So it feels stronger. But that doesn't mean that you can't communicate to a stray animal, or you can't communicate with an animal who we don't know at all, you know. So like, for example, there was somebody sent me a mail. It was a friend's friend and she wanted a communication. And I was like, okay. And this dog said to me, she was a rescue animal. And she said, you know I am bad tempered. I'm working on it. And I'm telling you, I am working on it. And she kept showing me a pram. Okay. And I was like, I don't know if they take her out. She was a tiny dog. Maybe they take her out in a buggy, or, you know, they have a small child at home. I did not know anything. So I asked this lady to check. She says, no, her daughter is 8 years old or 9 years old. So they probably, you know, they are not planning to have any more children as far as I know, and good friends, right? So I was like, anyway, ask her, because in the communication, I kept asking the animal, what is this? You know, what is this image that you're showing me? And she said, I asked her, is the lady pregnant? So she would smile and she says, she would just keep showing me the image. Okay. So she didn't want to break that bond of trust between her human and herself. But she was so excited about the baby coming that she wanted her human to know, I know. Okay. I know you're going to have a baby. So in that whole process, that lady went back, asked her friend. She says, yes, I did not want to tell anyone. I'm going to have a baby in another 6 months and all of that. And so, you know, that was the dog's way of letting her know that I am working on my temperament. I will be good with your baby, but she didn't want to use the word baby or to say that the lady was having a baby. And she wanted her to know that I know you're going to have a baby. So that's how connected they are to us. So, you know, so they will show us things that we assume they may know, may not know, not sure, you know. But when you talk to them, they will kind of spill all their beans and they will tell you everything there is.
Okay. While you were just talking about this, while I go out on feeding, what happens is because we are humans and we are at different life states at every moment of our passing day, at every hour. What happens is, when I'm very happy, they are also very happy. And because you just told that we pass on the energy, and sometimes when I feel low, they also react in the very same way. They don't feel like coming and wagging their tail and asking me for food. But the other days, when I'm very happy, they come and wagging their tail. They'll even climb up to my seat of the scooty and they'll say, "There, give me more, give me more." So that is how they understand. Yeah. So, but then how do they understand if someone is probably if someone has conceived, or probably if something very bad is going to happen? I think because I have a pet at my home and every pet lovers, they would understand that if something bad is going to happen, they can already foretell days ago, few days earlier. I mean, what is that makes them say? I mean, how do they understand that? That is something
So,
very intriguing.
so they are connected to the universal energy. In the
Yes.
universal energy, your past, present, and future is all known, right?
Mm-hmm.
We as
Yes.
humans are structured in a manner that we should not know the future. That
Mm-hmm.
is the universal energy's way of making sure we live in the moment. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Which, of course, most of us don't. We live in the past, or we live in future worry, or we live in past sadness. We find ways to not live in the moment. And that is, again, a universal human thing. It's very rarely that we can stay in the moment, right? They know when something is going to happen most times. So it's not all animals will give you a hint about something that is going to happen, right? You have to really be in tune with them to understand. The second thing is they will only let you know if something is going to happen if they need to give you a warning, if it is something you can avoid, or if it is something that they want to help prepare you for. Okay. It is not because um it's not because they will always tell you, they will
Mm-hmm.
not always foretell a death, they will not foretell an accident, they will not do that, because
Mm-hmm.
they're living in the moment. They try not to live in the future. But
Yeah.
for example, you will see two people are very sick, one person is very sick in the house, they have cancer or they have a major illness. You will find an animal passes away in the same family. They have a soul connection, they have a soul contract with us. They will take on our illness and say, this person needs to fulfill this function, let me give them some more time. That is how big hearted animals are, right? And those are our soul contracts that we've already created before we're born. So there is a lot of give and take that happens, and we don't really realize it in real time. We might think back on it and say, this is what is happening. So if we are in the moment and if we are able to telepathically communicate with our animals, they will tell us. So I'll give you another example. For example, when you go to feed, if there is a sick animal or he's injured, okay, you want to grab him, you want to fix him. Not all the time they come to you. Some animals are very trusting, we say trusting, so they will come to us and they will take our help. Some animals, they will eat with us for their entire life, but they will not allow us to give them medication, to help them with any illness. They will not
Mm-hmm.
get caught when you have a shelter van come. All those things will happen. Okay. That's their free will. It's an animal that has a soul contract with you. You will feed the animal, but he has no interest in being poked and prodded, because in nature, he is not supposed to do that. And in his lifetime, he does not want to experience that. So he will
Okay.
run away. And so you can ask him when you telepathically communicate with him, and anybody can do this. You can say, I'm here to help you. If you want my help, I am here for the next 5-7 minutes. Just come to me. This is what I intend to do. Like, for example, I will just put some medicine on your foot, it will heal. And I'd like to do this for 5-7 days if you will allow me. You will find that even many animals that are scared or that run away will think about it and say, okay, let me try it. Okay. So that is how you win their trust. But when we go there thinking, oh, this animal is not going to come near me because his nature is like this, he is distrustful. What is the
Okay.
energy? What is the energy that you connected? It's distrust. You're
Yeah.
asking him to distrust.
True.
So
True.
that is how, I really want rescuers to do animal communication, because you learn to talk to your animals. You know which ones need your help. You know
All right.
whether they need to be sent to a shelter or not. You know whether to run to the vet with this one or not,
Okay.
and then you add alternative modalities that animals are more open to. And this is, across the board, most animals will say we would prefer natural treatments versus allopathic treatments. But they're not averse to allopathic treatments. If it is required, they will go for it. And they will say also, no, now I need a vet visit. Ho gaya. Abhi this
Mhm.
thing needs to be handled by allopathy. So that is how you create that level of comfort for yourself and for the animal as a
Okay.
rescuer or as someone who's working in animal welfare. And that's the
Okay.
cross section where we cause the maximum amount of stress to ourselves and the animal. So if we
Okay.
can just learn to communicate a little with them, and by a little I mean once either you communicate or you don't communicate, because either you believe or you don't believe. It's as simple as that. But the minute you start to communicate with them, it all becomes a lot easier. So I always ask rescuers who are working with me regularly, go learn how to communicate, do a boot camp, learn, because we're naturally connected. We accept that we are naturally connected to these animals. Then it's another slip that you need to go and you will be able to talk to them. It takes practice. Everything takes practice. Any language, whether it's English, Hindi, Assamese, Bengali, takes effort, right? So it's that effort to learn a language is what you need to put in.
Okay, okay. So when you were saying that we already, when we pre-assume that this dog won't come near to me, or this dog probably doesn't want to come near to me, we are already send a message to the animal out there that don't come near to me, because we already pre-assume in our mind, and that's the energy we pass out. But then
Correct.
the next day, go out, yeah, right.
Sorry,
And
go
if the
ahead.
next day, if I go out and or any team member goes for a rescue, first we need to communicate with them and then proceed with the work that's followed by. Is it not?
Yeah.
That is what you
Yeah.
mean to say,
Yeah,
right?
that is what I
Okay.
mean. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when it comes to calming down an aggressive dog, all right, and mostly dogs are aggressive who always remain tied 24/7, who are always tied. Why do they become so aggressive? Probably because their movements are restricted, their movements are constrained by the owners, right? That which is why they become aggressive, or there are certain other factors also. Or how do we actually help such kind of dogs who have turned so aggressive because of their patience?
So aggressiveness comes from the distrust that is thrown at animals by multiples of humans that are there in the society, on the road, And certain animals are like, why should I be nice to them when they are not nice to me? One form of aggression. The second form of
Okay.
aggression that happens is territorial aggression. Okay, if the humans are trying to move them out of their territory, they cannot understand, why should I move? This is my home. From this end of this road to that end of that road is my space. Okay, why should I move from here? That's territorial aggressiveness. The third one
Okay.
is fear-based aggressiveness, right? Fear-based aggressiveness is people are hitting the dog, people are tying the dog, people are not nice. It has not been treated well. So all that trauma converts into fear. So he's fearful, and that because he's not able to let go of the fear, his reaction to everybody is to pounce, bite, bark, all of that.
Okay.
Fight or flight, right? So there are different forms of aggressiveness that we need to evaluate the animal on, right? And for aggressiveness, actually, batch remedies is very, very good. So because it's all trauma based, mostly aggressiveness is a form of trauma, right? Some animals like lactating mothers, they have their puppies, they don't want anyone in their territory, they might bite, they might be the most docile dog, but during the time that they are protecting their brood of animals, they will not allow people into that territory. Sometimes they will be distrustful even of their feeders. Sometimes they're very trusting. So distrust, fear, bad treatment, trauma, all these are contributing factors to an animal's aggressiveness. We need to identify what is making the animal aggressive. We need to find the solution, and our energy. Never forget, our energy plays a very important role in either calming an animal or making it more aggressive, right? So if you take all these factors together, you will find a solution that will help the animal. Now, he's not going to become a loving, cuddly dog, okay? But he's going to become less aggressive, maybe not biting, maybe, some behavioral changes, and
Mhm.
easier for humans to handle. So
Okay.
that is how, you look at each emotion in batch therapy. Is it fear based? It is territorial. It is because of motherhood. You look at all those little things and then you ask the animal, is this correct? Is this why this is happening? How can I help you? You know, what do we need to change in the humans around you, and what do you want to change about yourself? So a lot of times people adopt rescue animals and they end up being quite aggressive, and then they return the rescue animal and say, this I cannot handle. There is a way to work through that. There is a way where you can be more gentle with the animal. You can communicate, you can understand their point of view, and then you can decide. It's very rarely that you find an animal getting more and more aggressive, even though there is a communicator, a behaviorist, or a batch therapist helping the process.
Okay. Okay. So, how far has been this batch flower therapy been successful in kind of uh, decreasing? I would not say eliminating, because that's something that's been under process, and each animal would be receptive according to their needs, and so on and so forth. So, how far has it been successful in minimizing the level of trauma or the level of whatever ailments have been undergoing in the process of maybe it was a rescue case, maybe it was a hit and run case, maybe it was an ailment. How far has it been successful, in particular with the batch flower therapy?
With batch flower therapy, you see in the first month 20 to 30, 40% improvement in an animal. Okay. Um,
Okay.
but as you go through the process, the human needs to also show that 20, 30, 40% more trust in the animal, right? So you also, if
Okay.
you muzzle a dog and keep it because you think it's aggressive, then you have to be able to take that muzzle off, or you have to allow him to go for his walk without a muzzle, right? So those are little steps that the humans also take. But I have these animals who are scared to walk in the colony. They attack other dogs just out of fear. It was a fear-based case. And he has been on therapy now for 3 months, and it's much easier to take him for walks. He readily goes for walks. He doesn't, if he's being walked well, then he doesn't attack other animals and things like that. So there is a lot of improvement that happens. Now if I am the walker, I am thinking, oh, he might attack. Hut karke, that day or the next day he will. When you're not paying attention, he will, because your energy is connected that way. So
Yes.
those are some of the things that you need to think about as your role contributing to it. Okay. So it's not always all the animal, but it may be 80-90% the animal's fault. Okay. In the sense that he has gone through trauma that we need to help release. He has gone through certain things, or he doesn't. Or sometimes they get aggressive because they don't want to live with that family. They've been adopted in the wrong house. They'd rather live on the street, you know. So things like that
Okay.
also happen. So you have to be
Uh-huh.
um, in a situation where you can also look at it from a distance and see what is improving, what is not improving, so the next time when we make the remedies, we adjust it to address certain issues, because it's like an onion peel. Batch remedies, we how Dr. Batch described it is that it's an onion peel. Each peel is an emotion that you get rid of, and then the next one and the next one, till you get to your true self, or your balanced self. So something else might come up in a month or two, but usually 3 to 4 months creates a huge improvement in the animals.
Mm-hmm.
And you start seeing it within the first week, 10 days. You absolutely start seeing it in the first week, 10 days. I mean, I've had some cases that took 6 months.
Okay.
But those were animals that had been through hell, and it was very difficult for them. But mostly you will find improvements fairly quickly.
Mm-hmm. So is it edible, or is it something that, I mean, of course not, but then how do you go
So
on or
it
move further with the process?
so basically this is the kind of bottle, an amber bottle, right? With a dropper, and the dosage is 4 drops 4 times a day. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you put the flower essence into mineral water. So it doesn't have the taste of alcohol, which is on homeopathy. So animals don't really like that, and they will try and not eat it. But this is water based. It is basically capturing the energy of the flowers, and that energy, the frequency is much higher. So it brings our frequency or the animal's frequency up. And therefore, we are able to let go of negative
Mm.
emotions,
Okay.
and that's how it
Oh,
works. So that's why it's
okay.
more of an energy based healing modality than ayurveda or homeopathy, which is symptoms and all those little things that we do.
Okay. So in that case, because it's based in Gurgaon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if there are cases which are based out of the place that it's based on right now, how do people reach out to you, or how do they seek help from bed flower therapy in that?
So what I do is I courier the remedies to people across the country. What I
Okay.
end up doing is I do a phone conversation, I do a telepathic communication with the animal, and then I send the remedies, right? I try and help as many stray animals as I can, and if I see
Okay.
people who are diligently giving it to animals or diligently doing work with stray animals, I even give it for free, right? I don't charge them. Maybe just the courier cost to their location, 100 200 rupees, whatever it might be, so that there is some energy exchange. But as one person, I cannot proliferate this as much as I would like to, because at the end of the day, it's one person. So that's why I feel that this form of healing, if more and more people got into it, if more and more people got into it, got into animal communication, we would create a much um, easier way for us to work with our animals, right? Whether they're
Okay.
street animals, whether they're shelter animals, whether they're rescue animals, or whether there are pets. I do charge for, pets, because somewhere I need to cover my costs and things like that. So I only charge for pets. I don't charge for stray animals as much as possible. And I try and, one or two people who work with, say, 40, 50, 60 dogs in, say, Delhi NCR area, I work with them on a regular basis, right?
Mm.
But I'm happy
Mm.
to leave that message out there and see if there is an energy that kind of connects with other people and they would like to try this. I'm happy to kind of work with them and see how we can make this available, um, further than I have a few clients in Guwahati and in Calcutta, but beyond that, really, I haven't spoken to people or sent remedies out or done any of that. So I
Okay.
am happy and willing to work with them with their shelter animals or rescue animals.
So you have thought about collaborating with the NGOs as such, which deals particularly with animals?
So I work with a couple here in Delhi, not
Okay.
outside the city,
Mhm.
because A, maybe I haven't thought about it.
Okay.
And B, no one has really come forward, and I wouldn't know where to start or who would take this seriously, because the remedies are expensive, they're not cheap.
Okay.
It comes from UK and things like that. So one needs to, also work with people who take those remedies and use them well for the animals. So, that's why I'm
Yeah.
saying this is a great platform for me to say, yes, it's an opportunity for me to connect with people, for people to connect with me and see how we could potentially take this beyond, me working with one or two sets of people in the
Mm.
immediate vicinity.
Okay. Okay. Uh, so uh, you ship across all over India, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I do.
Okay. So probably you have not about yet collaborating with NGOs or things like that people
I have.
voluntarily do.
Yeah. So I
Okay.
work with some NGOs in Delhi. I haven't moved beyond that because, like I said,
Okay.
I'm not sure how that, but everything you can explore and you can figure out if it is meant to be, it will happen, right? That's the way I
Right.
look at it. So as and when, somebody comes to me from, say, another state, which is more shelter based, I can work with them. I mean, we can figure out how to work this through, right?
Okay.
Usually it happens that people come to me for 1 or 2 animals, and then they are feeders and they have 50, and they see a lot of improvement with certain animals, and so they would like to continue treatment for the others as well, because it saves them vet visits, vet costs. Also, it's easier on the animals, right? For some simple stuff. Of course, if
Right.
it is a serious thing, you are going to rush to the vet. You're not going to wait for remedies to arrive from Delhi to Bombay or Delhi to Bangalore or whatever it is. But there are some things that often do not have allopathic treatments. Like, for example, epilepsy, or for gingivitis, they will tell you need to put anesthesia and all of that, and then you just put these drops, and in a few days the toothache is gone, the teeth start to look cleaner for the animal, for the cats especially. So things like that. Skin ailments, very big for skin ailments, very big for trauma, injury, paralysis, or the animal is not getting up because it has been hit by a vehicle, right? And sometimes you feel the spine may be broken. You will do an x-ray also, but you're not sure whether the animal will walk or not. In many cases, we've used batch therapy, and the animal starts to walk in 3 or 4 days.
Okay.
So it basically allows the animal to self-heal. It has a willingness to get better, and therefore it uses that energy that you're giving him or her to get better and to start walking again. So things like that.
So when do you think we should reach out to animal communicator, or we should reach or seek out for batch flower therapy? I mean, where do we understand that line? Where do we mark that line? That where do we understand when should we reach out to batch flower therapy or an animal communicator?
It is a very intuitive process. I think the one thing that I want to say to all rescuers, people who work with animal welfare, is to trust your instinct or your intuition. It will always guide you towards the things that you need to experience, explore, learn, right? That has been my journey. That has been the journey for many people who have taken some time to be centered and to figure that out. So that is my first advice, is to trust yourself, trust your instinct, and it will lead you to the path that you need to. And it may not be batch, it may be Ayurveda, it may be homeopathy, it may be totally
Anything other.
right? So trust your instinct there. The second thing is, if you're curious and you don't yet know, you can, people can message me. I can, they can go to my website. I have tried to put a lot of basic information out there, especially to do with animals. And I'm going to try and do a lot more of that in the future, so people can use that as a resource. And then if it's calling out to you, you can absolutely reach out to an animal communicator. I give instances where you can reach out to an animal communicator. It could be behavioral issues, it could be lost animals, it could be animals who passed on, and like how you felt that there was a connection, and sometimes you just want that closure, so you come to a communicator. You may go to a communicator because you're a new pet parent, and you're trying to understand, am I doing this right? You may come to me when people have illnesses, when the animal has a lot of illness. Sometimes you have people will go and pick up pedigreed animals, and they have issues, and they start at a very young age, pretty much immediately after you bring them home. So it happens. So, like, for example, I'll give you one example. I know we're over time, but I'll just explain that to you. I had this kid during lockdown who called me, and he had a 45-day-old puppy. And my first reaction at 10 o'clock at night was, why do you have a puppy? And why, your first reaction is to judge a person saying you have a sick puppy and whatever. And, the minute you kind of remove your emotions from it, I heard the animal say to me, come on, give me my remedies. And so the boy,
you answered it.
so yeah, just when the boy was talking to me, the puppy is saying, come on, I need the remedies, make them for me, So I'm like, okay, I will make the remedies for you. And at 11:30 at night, this boy came, picked up the remedies. He was, obviously, he loved this puppy a lot. He was doing everything in his power. And that day, the vet said to him when he came back, when he was leaving the vet, he said, I don't know if this puppy will make it through the night. He's very sick. So he, via figured me out, and he came to me and he took it. And in 15 minutes of giving him the remedies, the puppy had gotten up, lifted his head, and he'd been, just sleeping all day.
Okay.
And he lifted his, and he came and he licked his chin, because I told him, you keep him on your chest. He's too young to be put away, and it's winters in Delhi. So he had him
Yeah.
on his chest, and he crawled up and he licked this thing, and he sent me a message at midnight. And
Okay.
from there on, the puppy just kept improving. Of course, he continued with the vet's treatment for 5 days or 7 days, whatever was required. And he was getting the drips, and he was getting the medication, and he was getting all
Okay.
of that. But, it's like that little pep that you gave to the puppy so that he can start to absorb all that healing and get better. So that was that gentleman's time to come and have a chat with me. And he was a young boy, maybe 20, 21, first
Oh.
puppy, all of that. So sometimes, even though my head tries to get in the middle of it, the animals put me in my place and they say, okay, no, you need to do this. So that's how it happens, and you will get that sense for anyone who is really listening to this or gets that pull towards either animal communication or towards badge. I would recommend visit my website. Akshaya is a great teacher who I learned from, and that's how you connected with me. So, do her boot camp, or connect with her, figure out what you want to do. There are, of course, many other communicators out there who are fabulous, who also teach. And, it's just something you can go out and pick up. It's not rocket science. It is a skill that we all have. So
Yes,
believe
yes.
in that. And once you have that belief, I think it will draw you in the direction that you need to go to.
Right. So what need to do in order to learn to communicate with animals? I mean, is there any internship program, or you offer any?
There's a course. Akshaya does it.
Okay.
After this, I will send you a link to her Facebook
Please do
page.
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you can share that with people, because I don't teach. But
Okay.
I learned from her, and she's
Okay.
been a fabulous teacher to me. So,
Mhm.
when people ask me, where can I go learn? I say, for batch therapy, it's this lady, Rupa, who's been my teacher, and Akshaya for animal communication. They are people I have experienced personally, and I would highly recommend them. But outside of that, I'm sure there's a lot of, you can do research, you can see who else is teaching, you can see their reviews, and decide who you kind of, get it done with, right?
Right.
So I'll send you Akshaya's details, and then you can, figure out how you want to kind of take that
Yeah.
forward with her.
Okay. I mean, this was a session which will always be treasured, not only in my hearts, but then in the hearts of the viewers, because we always tend to work physically. But then when it comes connecting with the animals spiritually, morally, and emotionally, that takes a lot of effort on every human being's part. I think it was wonderful speaking to you, Damini. And if there are any questions from the viewers, the floor is now open for question and answers. Please feel free to ask. Viewers, would you want to ask anything, or you want to know or add anything to what Damini just said?
Maybe
Well, I
it's
think
kind of run.
Damini,
Yeah, I would
I
say
think
just
you
put the
have said,
questions. Sorry, go ahead.
no,
Go ahead.
that's okay. No, I mean, you have said through in and throughout. I mean, it was such wonderful. It was wonderful talking to you, knowing about animals, communicating, and you shared many instances. But that instance of when they rang you the middle of the night, and you heard the puppy saying, "Yes, offer me I need the remedy." I mean, that gave me goosebumps, and it's really incredible. Understand today in this materialistic world how it is still possible for humans to connect with animals, uh, no, in the most uh, kind of the platonic level. I would use the word platonic, because we as humans have become so much materialistic that we have almost forgotten to communicate with humans, and
That's true.
leave it coming to communicate with animals. And that's something humans don't even think of. Well, Damini, I think Milind wants to ask you a question. Yes,
Sure.
Milinda.
Yes. My question is that I have a mom and two of her children, basically, adopted during the COVID from the street.
Mm-hmm.
So now, the I think the mom must be around 2+ years, and the kid must be around, must be born in July or June last year.
Mm-hmm.
But now the mom and the son get along very well. Previously, like, the daughter and the mom used to play all the time. Now some dynamic change, and now mom and the daughter fight, or mom and the son fight. So now I'm thinking, maybe I should separate. Maybe I have to find a home for the daughter, because she has been, not happy with the sibling or the mom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I do not understand their communication, whatever going on. Only thing I know that they were always arguing. So what do you think?
So are they cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Okay. So, firstly, to understand that dogs, once they're adults, don't share the same bond that we do as parent and child, right? That's the physiological version of how they live, right? So they will all go in separate ways and create their own homes. But for me to do a communication for you, you can just send me a WhatsApp, and I'd be happy to do that for you. Because also remember, once you start thinking about I should adopt out one of them, or specifically, the daughter, then they have read that signal from you, and their fighting amongst themselves could potentially be over who leads. Okay. It
But
is not
I didn't want it
necessarily.
to give.
Hmm,
When
hmm,
my first preference was to keep the girl.
hmm.
I wanted her. I didn't want anybody else. I wanted her, the daughter. All
The
right.
daughter.
Because
So then
yes.
just set up time with me. We can do a communication for you to figure that out. Okay. In terms of what will work and what are they saying, because you'll need to speak to all three of them to find out each one of their individual and group perspectives and your this thing. So that'll take like an hour, 30 minutes. So we should try and do that. But yeah, these are the kind of situations a lot of people come to me with. And sometimes one of the animals will say, I'm happy to be back on the street, or I want to get adopted, or we find a way for them to all get along.
Yes, I would like a way to get along. They go out fighting all the time. So I do not know. They were like, oh, they were like really
Yeah.
talking.
I
I had
have two
no
dogs
clue
in
what
my
they
house. I have two dogs in my house. All my communication has not helped me sort their differences out. I have to keep them in separate rooms. So, it's not necessary that, you spoke to them and they all melted and their hearts melted. If their free will does not allow them to, become a cohesive unit, there's nothing we can do about it. But we can definitely speak to them and find out what's bothering them and what's the solution in their head.
Thank you, Damini.
Thank you so much, Milind.
Well, Damini, I thank you from the bottom of the heart. Anajori thanks you for kind of giving a different insight into the coexistence between humans and animals. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Looking
much,
forward
Ankita.
to learn more from you. Yes, probably. And in future to come, please do share the link where all of us can benefit by learning to communicate with animals, so that in turn the world becomes a better place to live in. Because without the coexistence of human nature and animals, the world is not a world. It's anarchy. So I thank you so much. And I feel blessed, Anajori, calling you in this platform. I think this will be treasured forever. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much, Ankita. Thank you.
Thank you.
Be
Dana.
well, and I'll share the links with you on WhatsApp. Yeah.
Take care. Goodbye. Take care.
Goodbye. Bye bye.